Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Quick wristwatch check. I'm wearing my Omega Seamaster Professional Bond watch. Stay tuned, I'm going to do a review on this soon. Love it. I'm going to kiss it as always. So this is a video you guys have been asking me to do for the longest time. So this is going to be the state of the collection video. And you know, I've been through so many watches since I've been on this channel. It always seems weird doing these. I guess A, because I'm still kind of surprised that people actually care about what watches I own. But two, because my collection changes so much too that it's kind of hard to keep these things relevant. But hey, I'm going to do it. Just forewarning too on the video, I'm not going to show you every watch in my collection, frankly because I have a lot of watches that just never get worn. So I'm just going to show you guys the pieces that are actually special to me that I wear all the time and are ones that I think really speak to what I like about watches and what I believe in. So just note, again, I'm going to focus on the watches that just mean something to me. There's other watches that you may see on the channel from time to time, or you may see in the background that I'll probably show on the channel at some point, but they just don't have the same specialness to me as the ones that I'm going to share with you guys. I'd also like to take this opportunity to just say thank you. You know, this channel has done a lot for me and it's grown a lot, and I just want to kind of touch on that a little bit in this video, since, you know, obviously you guys are watching this because you care about what's in my collection and you followed me for a little bit, or you just have curiosity. And I don't know that you guys realize what an impact you guys have had on my life, and I want to say thank you for that, because you know, within the last week or two, I apologize, I have not been answering comments or messages anywhere near as much as I used to. I've been traveling a lot and I've just been so busy that I can't do it, and it kills me because you guys are part of my life now. You're part of my community. It's always kind of been my hope that when I talk to you guys through these videos, that I talk to you as I would talk to a friend, because a lot of you guys have become my friends. And I don't want you guys to lose the fact that that means a lot to me. You know, if I look back in time a year ago, this channel had 1,000 subscribers and now we're over 6,000 and we're growing. And I just want you guys to know what an impact you've had on my life. You know, it's funny, I think everybody needs to have a sense of community. And when I was growing up in Michigan, I was part of the car community, and I would go hang out with people. We'd have our own language. I mean, I could go to talk to car guys and girls, and we'd be talking about RB26s and 2JZ GTEs and LSX motors. We'd be talking about limited slip differentials. We'd be complaining about Getriegs and Tremec transmissions, or making fun of automatics, or auto tragics as we used to call them. You know, we had our own little language, and if you talk to somebody who wasn't in the car community, they had no idea what we were on about. And that really kind of gave me a sense of community. And in the course of this channel, I moved out of Michigan and I kind of lost touch with that community. And YouTube has given me another community to be a part of. You know, we can talk about 4R36s, 6R15s, 3135s. We can talk about hacking and hand whiting, COC specifications, Geneva seal. I mean, we can talk about things that are kind of our own little lingo, our own little community. And we have that. We're part of a community. And I don't want you guys to lose sight of that, because it's a place where we can belong, where people understand our language and we can share our passions. And it's done a lot for me. You know, and it really hurts me not being able to answer all your questions and comments, because I've been able to connect with so many of you. I've become friends with so many of you, and I'm just so grateful for that. And a lot of you guys have invited me into your lives. You've shared details about your lives with me, and it's just clear that we just had this bond that unites us all, and this community and this friendship. And I just want you guys to know it means so much to me. And honestly, this channel has done a lot for me personally. As some of you know that I've connected with before, you know, the last year and a half has actually been one of the toughest years of my life. And as I said when I hit 1,000 subscribers last September, you know, I suffered a loss in my life that very much nearly took me out. I lost Ash. Ash was who I'd planned on spending the rest of my life with, my partner in crime, as it were. And it's funny, you know, some of you guys that know me on that level, you know, I knew Ash. It's funny as things do in life, you know, couples argue, and a week before Ash passed away, we were in this huge argument, and it was like, the argument was why I wasn't spending more time investing in YouTube. You know, YouTube was something that was making me happy and I was taking it for granted, and that it was something that I should really be spending more time on. And that's honestly the reason this channel has grown so much, because after Ash passed away, I felt that motivation to actually show Ash that I understood and I was going to do something about it. And I've been putting out a video every single week since September of last year to make that happen, because again, you guys have been my community. This has been a great motivating factor for me to work towards something, to build this into something that I can be proud of, to be part of this community, to share with you guys, to be part of this passion. And honestly, it's got me through some pretty dark days, and it's kept me going. And because of it, I've met so many wonderful people like you in the community that have just been such a joy to get to know, to share passions with, and you guys have invited me into your lives, and we've just had a great connection, and I am so appreciative for it. And as I can't answer all the questions anymore, or the comments always, I'm starting to do these live sessions. I'm gonna try to do them on Saturdays. I can't do them every Saturday, but I'm gonna try to do them on Saturdays. And hopefully you guys can catch a couple of those. I'll do them at different times. So at that point, you guys can catch me live and we can have live interaction and we can keep that community going, and I can keep talking with you guys and we can just keep sharing our passions with each other, because it means so much to me. And I know a lot of you too have invited me into your lives, as I've said, and I know a lot of you guys are going through some hard times too. And I want you guys to remember that life gets better, and there's some great communities out there, and we all have a purpose and a place in life, and keep sticking through it. So thank you guys always. I just wanted to say that because I just look back a year and see how far this channel has grown, and I am so grateful for it. I owe you guys a lot. So thank you. Long introduction away. So again, let's go ahead and get started on this. Thank you guys so much, and hope you enjoy a little glimpse into my collection. Guys, let's go ahead and get it kicked off with watch number one. So watch number one is an 1899 Elgin Pocket watch, and this watch I think is a great way to start because this is the first real quality watch that I ever had. And this thing is, again, 1899. It's 117 years old at this point, and it's been in my family the entire time. I first encountered this watch when I was a young kid, staying at my grandparents' house, being a nosy little brat. I was digging through some of their drawers, and I found this sitting in a drawer, had a broken crystal at the time, and I don't know what possessed me, but I went up to my grandparents and I'm like, hey, I want that watch, give it to me. And surprisingly, they gave me the watch, which I was not old enough or mature enough to have it at that point, so I subsequently broke it. As I mentioned, I already had a broken crystal, and I proceeded to take the rest of the crystal out, broke the hands off of it, and absolutely destroyed it. But fortunately, I ended up, maturing a bit, and I paid to have this watch restored, and it actually runs beautifully. Go ahead and get it wound up. It's a manual wind watch. And if you've watched some of my older videos, you may actually have seen this watch running in the older videos. So I paid about $200 to get it restored, which is probably a little bit more than the watch is worth. But, the fact that this thing is 117 years old and still looks almost brand new, and it's a piece of history. And I love this watch, and it's really, played a very big impact on my watch collecting because, as you guys know, I'm a stickler for watches that will last and take the test of time. And I like to think of all the watches that I buy of having a similar life as this watch. I'd like to think in 117 years too that somebody else will be appreciating them and enjoying them. It's kind of like the Patek Philippe advertisements where they kind of go on about how you're not an owner of a Patek, it's more something you're a caretaker for and you pass on through generations. And that's exactly how I feel about this watch. And let me go ahead and hold it over the microphone so you can just hear the ticking of a 117-year-old engine. Hopefully you can hear that ticking there. There's the beautiful porcelain dial. And this thing is just a piece of history. I absolutely love it. Hearing a little heartbeat going on it, this is just a piece of history, and it just means the world to me. So this is my 1899 Elgin Pocket watch. Alright guys, next up we have the Seiko SARB035, a watch that if you've been watching me for a while, you're very familiar with. I absolutely adore this watch. This is a watch that I think has become an icon in its own right, and deservingly so. This is, as many alluded to, kind of a baby grand Seiko. The quality, the craftsmanship, and the value that this watch represents, in my opinion, is not beaten by anything else out there. Features the Seiko in-house 6R15 movement. Let me see if I can get this thing to focus here. There's the little rotor. As you can see, this is the 6R15C version. If you're going to ask what I have on, I have right now, it's on a Hadley Roma strap, although I am a big fan of the bracelet these things come on as well. But it has a beautiful little Seiko sign crown there. It's hacking and hand winding. Just listen to the sound it makes too when you wind it. You can just tell that it's been made with precision. Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely love this watch. Hacking as well, as you can see. I have a full review of this on the channel if you want to check it out. I know a lot of you have, but absolutely adore this watch. It is such a high quality piece, and it gives me so much joy and pleasure to own it. And the one thing I would say is that I know a lot of people have asked me if they should pick one up, and of course I say resoundingly you absolutely should. Just be aware that the bracelet that they come on tends to be a little bit short. If you have a wrist much larger than, like, say 7 inches, you're probably going to have to put it on a strap or get a different bracelet for it, just forewarning. But beyond that, awesome watch, finds a lot of time on my wrist, and yeah, I mean, what else can I say? I love this watch. Alright guys, here's another watch you guys have seen on my channel quite a bit. This one's probably going to be a little bit more controversial. Here's the Shinola Runwell. These are very much a love it or hate it kind of thing. You know, I've personally even said on some of my videos that for the $1,000 they ask for these things, I think they're massively overpriced. But if you guys have followed me for a while and you know my story a little bit, you know that I grew up near Detroit. Well, I grew up in the sheltered suburbs of Detroit where people were afraid to go into the city, but I did go to Detroit all the time. I love Detroit. I think it's a city with soul, and just the architecture is just incredible. I won't go on a rant, but Detroit's an incredible city. But you know, I bought this watch, as you guys are probably already aware if you've seen the videos I've made on them, because it just speaks to me. I have often talked about creating my own watch company, as I've mentioned in the videos. I always thought Detroit would be a great place to have a watch company. And they make these watches in the Argonaut building, which is an Albert Kahn design building in downtown Detroit. It's in New Center, Detroit, I believe, across from the Fisher Theater, if memory serves me right. Really cool piece of architecture. It used to be owned by GM, General Motors, which, as you may or may not be aware, I came from a General Motors family. So the building itself is very special to me. And I love the fact that people from Detroit are actually assembling these watches. Now, I grant you, a lot of the parts are sourced from overseas, Asia, and of course, the movement itself is just a Swiss Ronda movement. But, you know, I really like the way it looks, and the fact that it is assembled in Detroit, you know, definitely kind of tugged at my emotional heartstrings. So I don't wear it often, but it's something I just kind of have to remind me of my roots and where I'm from. And for that purpose alone, I consider it quite special to me. So that's the Shinola Runwell. Alright guys, here's another watch you'll see on the channel all the time. This is the Hamilton Trent Automatic. Bought this watch on a whim. As I've said for many years, I've been looking to buy a Jaeger-LeCoultre, something similar style. I figured I'd pick this thing up to see if I could wear this on the wrist and if I'd enjoy the style of the case. And you know, the watch has just really grown on me. I wear this thing all the time, so I mean, it kind of speaks for itself how much I love it. Has a little ETA 2824, which is a good, solid, reliable movement. Beats at 28,800 beats per hour. And, you know, it definitely speaks to my aesthetic. I love the Mad Men era, and I also love, this has a little bit of an Art Deco flourish to it as well. Two of my favorite periods are the 30s and the 60s, so this watch just really does it for me. I just absolutely love it. The dial can be a little shiny, as you can see. It may not be easy to pick up on camera, but love this watch. It's got great finishing on it. It's got a, you know, a reliable little ETA 2824 time-proven movement. Beautiful, high-quality leather strap, and, you know, this tends to be my go-to dress watch. I wear it all the time. And I just really like the way it looks. It just really speaks to me, and I get compliments on it all the time. And for what these things cost, I think it's just a great deal. So review of this is on my channel as well if you want to check it out. Hey guys, next up we have my vintage Pierce chronograph. Another watch you've probably seen on my channel. This is a manual winding chronograph. I believe this one was built in the mid to late 40s. I don't know the exact production date. However, Pierce made their own chronograph movements, and they are credited, I believe, with being the first house to use, or the first manufacturer to do a vertical clutch for a chronograph system. So, you know, a complication we take, or an innovation we take for granted today, I believe this is actually the movement that started the trend of clutch chronographs, so vertical clutch chronographs. So as you can see, it's got a nice vintage patina. You know, the case is worn, but it adds really to its overall aesthetic. You have a 60-minute totalizer up here at 12, and you have a running seconds at 6. Unlike most chronographs, you actually start it with the bottom pusher. You also stop it there, and you reset. It's about 38 mil, so it's a little bit smaller by modern standards. It's on a vintage and highly worn NATO strap. And, you know, this is just a watch that really kind of gives you that sense of past and heritage, and I really like to wear it from time to time. It means a lot to me. And if you guys follow me on Instagram, you can actually see the movement running on Instagram. I shot a little bit of the movement itself, which I just find fascinating to see running. So here is my vintage Pierce chronograph. Next up, a watch you guys will be very familiar with from my channel. Here is the SRP307J1, commonly known as the Superior Monster. This being a second generation, it has the 4R36 movement in it, so you're going to get hacking and hand winding, which is a big improvement in my mind over the previous 7S26 movement. This watch just does everything for me. I absolutely love this watch, and so you can see it's hacking right now, or hand winding right now, and of course it hacks. This was a J1, so it was made in Japan, so the date actually, as you can see here, is English, but it also has Arabic, which I think is kind of cool. But absolutely adore this watch. As you can see, there's no anti-reflective crystal, but love the quality of this watch. I love the brutalist aesthetic of it as well. Brutalism is one of my favorite architectural styles. The quality on this watch I just think is incredible. I love how the case almost has like a cradle for the bezel itself. You know, and this is a love it or hate it kind of watch. I know a lot of people find it really too busy and overdone. I love the aesthetic of it, and to me it just really speaks to me. Get a little diving extension here as well, since it's a diver. Full review of this, excuse me, is on my channel. But I wear this thing all the time. Absolutely, absolutely adore this watch. And as you've probably seen on my previous videos, this was the watch that got me into Seiko. I had a 16610 Submarine at the time that I bought this watch. Or the first time I saw this watch, excuse me, and a friend of mine came and showed me his, and I just was blown away by the quality. I actually thought it was higher quality than my Rolex at the time, which, just for comparison, just a sec here. I'll talk about this one in a sec. Here's my GMT Master, but I still to this day think that this is a much higher quality watch than these old vintage Rolexes were. I think if I handed these to anybody and blindfolded them and said which one feels like a higher quality watch, they would all say that the Seiko Monster is a better quality watch. And I know I'll get hate mail for that, but you know, that's what I feel, so oh well. Granted, the newer Rolex is a much nicer quality, but this is the watch that got me hooked on Seiko, so for that reason alone, I plan to never get rid of it. I love it. I love the dial. Everything about this to me is just very much my taste and my aesthetic, and it's a classic to me. Speaking of the Rolex, of course, I have my Rolex GMT Master, which you guys I'm sure have seen on my channel before. This is my 1989 GMT Master, and this is just the perfect travel watch. I travel a lot for work, and being able to change the time zones on the GMT hand as well as the hour hand, you even also have this great bi-directional bezel. It's just very easy for me to constantly change time zones when I'm traveling for work. This to me is just like the perfect travel watch. This along with the Explorer 2, I just think that they're absolutely awesome practical watches. And I adore this thing. This is an 89, it's an L serial, so it's got a little bit of fade, and there's actually some distortion on the dial where the lacquer is starting to rot out a little bit. It's going to become a Stardust style one of these days, just the way it's going, but kind of gives it a nice little vintage patina. The camera doesn't really pick it up though. This is back when I hated Rolex bracelets and the fold over clasp, which has all been rectified on newer Rolexes, but for a long time I just thought they felt like junk. But I adore this watch. You know, people think of Rolexes as luxury watches, and of course they do come with a luxury price tag, but to say this watch is a luxury watch I think is misunderstanding it. This to me is just a very utilitarian, rugged watch. Rolexes are known to be like bulletproof. They run forever, and they're just really well made. And as a tool watch that you can take anywhere and go through multiple time zones, I think if you look at this watch from that light, I think that's the way it's best appreciated. I think this is just a wonderfully made, high quality, timeless tool watch. And in that respect, that's what I really appreciate about it. You know, I've had 6 Rolexes, you know, everything from Daytonas to Datejust to Presidents to Submariners to... I couldn't even tell you, I've had so many of them, but I'd say this one is so far away my favorite. It's just a very easy, wearable, great utilitarian watch, and I love it for that. So, yep, reviews of this are on my channel as well. There's the GMT Master II. Another watch you guys have seen on my channel, and actually this is one I bought for the channel. This is the Vostok Komandirkie. This one is manual winding. Has the crown that took me forever to get used to. I gotta be honest, when I first bought this watch, it did nothing for me. And I'd say for about the first week, I thought it was total junk. But it's one of those strange things in life that now that I've had it for a while, it just really, really grew on me. And I absolutely adore this watch. This thing is just all about, you know, watches. You know, if you just like pure, simple mechanical things, this watch is just the epitome of that. It's like a $30 watch, and it's just, you know, it's just a pure mechanical thing. And it's just, I love the simplicity of it. The design of the case back and the crown, if you guys aren't familiar, I think it's worth doing a little research and looking into that. The innovations that this watch came out with, especially the case back, where they were able to come up with a case back design that prevents the plastic seals, the rubber seals, from getting destroyed every time you take the case back off. There's a lot of great little innovations on this watch that I think are very cool. I love the blue dial on it. It has decent lume on it. And of course, they come in a million different dials. I got the one with the submarine, because if you guys have followed me for a while, you know that I'm a huge fan of Cold War history. I actually had a friend of mine that served on the USS Parche, which was a big US spy submarine that, of course, he couldn't tell me anything about what he did. I can only guess what he got up to. But the Cold War and everything between the US and Russia, you know, I love both countries, and I'm fascinated by the technology both the USSR and the US came up with. You know, Oscar IIs, Deltas, Typhoons, those submarines are just, I'm like fascinated by the engineering of them, just as I love the American, you know, Ohio and Seawolf and Los Angeles class subs. But so this watch really speaks to that era and time that is so, you know, much a passion of mine. I really appreciate the simplicity of it. I love that you can customize these things like crazy. I'll probably have to do a mod on it at some time, maybe a different bezel for it, maybe get a kind of cool bracelet for it. But absolutely love these things, and for $30, I can't recommend them enough. You know, the only other watch that's in that price range that I think should also be worth your consideration that's mechanical would be the entry-level Seiko 5s. But adore this watch, and yeah, that's the Vostok Komandirkie. Like I said, you know, I'm not going to cover every watch in this review. I mean, we'd be here for 5 years. I have so many watches, but I just want to touch on the ones that are very special to me. And I think we should wrap this up with, I think, the watch that is the most fitting to wrap this up with, which is the one that really got me into high-end watches. And that's the Seiko Seamaster Professional. And I'm also, just a quick little mention too, as you can see here, I also have the Breitling Navitimer. Before I get started on the Seamaster, I just want to mention the Breitling Navitimer too. I have a review coming out of it soon, so I don't even really need to talk about it, but the Navitimer is another watch that I find very iconic. And a lot of people think the design is a little, you know, kind of overcomplicated and overdone. I just think it's beautiful. I just think it's timeless. I like the slide rule bezel. Breitling to me makes the best quality bracelets in the business. They're just so comfortable to wear and to play with. I just think anybody does a bracelet better than Breitling, to be honest with you. Now, as a flight watch, I would never use this as a flight watch. You know, yeah, you can use the slide rule bezel to do all sorts of complications from, you know, like fuel to speed calculations, but to me, it'd be just too much of a pain to try to do that in flight with that watch. But I just think it's got timeless appeal, and I absolutely love it to death. And yeah, stay tuned for a review on that soon. But we'll touch on their Breitling at some other point. But let's move that out of the way. And so here we have the watch that I actually want to wrap up with, which is my Omega Seamaster Professional. And you know, again, as I was saying before I cut myself off, this is the watch that really got me into Swiss watches. You know, again, being a 90s kid, when I was growing up, Pierce Brosnan was my James Bond. And, you know, as a part of my generation, GoldenEye is probably my favorite Bond movie of all time. You know, whether or not Pierce Brosnan was the best Bond of all time, everybody has a different opinion. I adore Daniel Craig, and Roger Moore, too, gets a lot of hate. I love Roger Moore. I think his movies are hilarious. But Pierce Brosnan was my first Bond, and him and this watch are just icons for me. And this watch right here is what started me on my whole watch collecting, you know, journey. I couldn't afford one when I first started off, and it was looking for a watch like this and realized I couldn't afford it. That got me to buy an Omega Genève originally instead, and I built my way up, and I've been through, I mean, God knows how many watches I've had at this point. I'm assuming probably 60, 70 high-end watches. But surprisingly, I never picked one of these things up until recently. But this for me will always be the watch that Bond wore. You know, the helium escape valve over here will always be what you use to, you'd press it, which of course it doesn't press, to activate your remote mines, or to pull it out for like a C4 detonator for explosives, or having like a laser, or, I mean, this watch to me it's an icon, and I love it to death. Apparently I haven't worn it in a while because it's not running right now. Let's fix that. This thing uses an in-house, I'm kidding, uses an ETA 2892, I believe, based movement. Omega calls it the Cal 1120. If you want to see the movement, I posted a video of it on my Instagram. But yeah, this is kind of the watch that I think we should end on, because this is what started me on the whole Swiss watch thing. And comes, of course, on the famous Omega bracelet with a diver's extension. Of course, I'll do a full review on this on my channel at some point too. There's the cool little seahorse on the case back. But yeah, there's the Omega Seamaster Professional, the watch that got me into watches. And we're back, guys. So hopefully you enjoyed that little glimpse into my collection. And, you know, of course, I'll try to do more video of these over the years, because my collection changes so much. You know, you guys have been following me for a while. You'll probably realize some watches are missing from my collection. You know, the Daytona, the Rolex President, the Datejust, the Submariner, the Seamaster Chrono, the Speedmaster Reduced. You probably didn't see any of the old vintage Seikos or the Parnas in there. I mean, there's a bunch of watches that either don't get worn much or I've sold off. So that's why those guys were missing. But as always, guys, thank you so much for your continued support. Please leave a comment below if you have anything you want to say. Well, I can't respond to them always. I do read them and I appreciate them. Hopefully you guys will be able to catch me on a live session at some point. Links to my social media are below, so you can see some of those watch movements I was alluding to. Or just connect with me on Instagram. I love Instagram. It's a great way for us to communicate too. Instagram, I think, is a wonderful resource for that. And beyond that, hopefully you guys will catch each other in the next video. If you aren't already, please subscribe so we can do that. And thank you guys so much. I'm so blessed to have you, and wish you guys have an awesome day.